In this section, we're going to cover the survey and the action response continuum. When I was at the Peace Officer Training Academy, I was there when both of these incidents happened, Tennessee versus Garner and then Graham versus Connor. And whenever we had a bright line ruling such as this, the Attorney General's office then would, of course, they're going to look at it and they have to make sure then that the law enforcement training at the state of Ohio is in compliance with what the court guidelines are. In a bright line case, then they would contact the Academy or the Peace Officer Training Commission, and then I would get called in and they would say, what is being trained? And this is a bright line standard and we have to adapt our training to this. And so when Graham versus Connor was decided, and it said we must act objectively reasonably, as other reasonable officers would have acted in a tense, rapid evolving situation. As soon as I heard that, well, then that's when I started on, I would say, what has turned out to be my life work. Because any officer in Ohio that trained any law enforcement officer, corrections, bailiffs, private security, I would have trained them. I did all train the trainers. So in basic training, I had written a lesson plan for all basic training in Ohio that had to be followed. And then I trained the trainers in all the advanced training. And then because the Academy trusted me, the Attorney General trusted me, and I was asked for, they sent me on loan to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So I trained their trainers. And I would never train an officer or a trainer how to do a move unless I put it in context. Because anything done at the right time is right, anything done at the wrong time is wrong. And so I would say, if a person's doing this, then our response would be this. And then they sent me on loan down to the state of West Virginia. So I go down to the Institute Drive, the West Virginia State Police Academy, and I train their trainers. And I've done it since 1990, and I still through today. Well, so now I'm training them in all these techniques and telling them, if this happens, then we're going to do this. What if I was wrong? I haven't just screwed up Ohio, I've screwed up multiple states. And wanting to be as thorough as possible, and knowing what the Supreme Court said, the guideline was, I said, why don't we ask them? Why don't we ask them? Let's find out what law enforcement believe are reasonable responses to resistance, aggression, and assault. And when I first started doing this, because, this was a lot of years ago, I just did it by hand. And I had the luxury of training thousands of officers every year. So every class that came in, or in our academy, one year we put through, with 8 instructors, we put through 10,000 officers from around the country. I would visit the classrooms and say, here's what I'm doing. I'd just like to, take 10 minutes of your time, and I would survey them. I'd say, if they're doing this, what are reasonable responses? And I did it all by hand. And then what I started to see is that everybody wasn't clones, but it was amazingly close in what people thought reasonable responses were. So I wrote a letter to the Attorney General, and I said, am I allowed to do research? He said, yes, you can do research. It must be anonymous. We're not going to give you overtime for it. We're not going to fund it, but you're welcome to do research and share the information. Well, such a deal, but I started it right away.